Okay, we'll get started here. My name is Stephen Keen. I'm a senior planner here at the Houston-Galveston Area Council. And today, staff is conducting the project sponsor workshop for the RTP project development process. Okay, so before we get into the process, we'll go over what to expect for the workshop, the agenda, so to speak. So we're going to do a background for the regional transportation plan as the plan, not the workshop. That'll be about 5 minutes. We'll then get into the RTP project development process, the overview. For those that are familiar with our subcommittees, our committees, our TAC, our TPC, you may have seen a version of this. This is the more detailed, informative version of the process. We'll then have a presentation to show how to submit a project to our online portal. And then, of course, we'll get into a coffee break, roughly 5 minutes, maybe a little bit longer. And then we'll get into 5 presentations for our RTP goals, data application presentations. And we'll get into exactly what that means later on in the presentation. Finally, we'll discuss, or we will have a question and answer session for those in the in-person and online. That'll be roughly 40 minutes. Again, these are not exact. We can go a little bit longer, a little bit shorter on our agenda items, but this is roughly how we're going to try and flow the presentation. Okay, so as I promised, we'll be doing a little bit of background on the Regional Transportation Plan, or the RTP as we affectionately called it. So, the Regional Transportation Plan is the long-range comprehensive plan for the region that guides major transportation investments over a 20-plus year planning outlook. So our most recent RTP is the 2045 RTP update. That guides major transportation investments through the year 2045. Now the RTP is updated every 4 years, which includes a project list. The RTP project list is a listing of projects that is a reflection of the vision and goals of the most recent RTP. It is fiscally constrained. It is subject to air quality conformity determination, and it is approved by TPC. Before the adoption of the RTP project development process, this process was adopted by TPC in February. HJC did not have a process which the sole purpose was to add projects to the RTP. So this is the first of its kind at HJC. Providing more background, we'll talk a little bit about the vision statement, the goals and desired outcomes that are within the most recent 2045 RTP update. Now, our vision statement defines the desired future transportation system for the region. Now, I'll state it. Our vision statement is a safe, resilient, equitable, and reliable multimodal transportation system that contributes to a livable region. Now, this is what we're abiding by within the RTP. The goals are targeted, achievable outcomes for the region that align with the vision. So these goals are improve safety, achieve and maintain a state of good repair, move people and goods reliably and efficiently, strengthen regional and economic competitiveness, and conserve and protect natural and cultural resources. Finally, the desired outcomes, which are associated with our performance measures, are used to understand the rate of progress towards each goal. So we have our vision statement, the overarching statement that we want to see within our region. We have our 5 goals, and then we have what we want to see those goals, how we want them to be realized within the transportation network. How are we making sure we're making progress on these goals in the transportation network? So here we get to the RTP project development process. But before we get to the process, let's talk about the purpose. The purpose of this process is quite simple. Is to establish a primary avenue to add projects to the RTP. We want a project list that reflects and adheres to the RTP vision and goals. We want to increase projects submitted and added to the RTP, plainly. We want to add and increase projects submitted and added to the RTP. And we want to maximize planning efforts. Now, once a project is added to the RTP, the MPO director and project sponsor collaborate to ensure the project is on track to eventually be included in the 10-year plan and the TIP. So really, The RTP and the RTP project list is the first step into getting through our planning process. Now at the bottom here, I'm attempting to contrast the project development process and the project selection process. Now, again, if you're familiar with the MPO and our TAC and TPC and the TIP subcommittee, you'll have heard the project selection process. The project selection process are for projects within the TIP or 10-year plan. Those are short-term projects, 0 to 10 years. What we're here today to talk about is the project development process. That is for the RTP only. These are projects that are long-term, 10+ years away from construction. So again, we're talking about the project development process, the RTP, long-term projects, 10+ years away from construction. So we'll discuss this throughout the presentation, but what is an RTP eligible project? An RTP eligible project, again, it must be 10+ years away from their letting year, from construction. RTP eligible projects must be able to answer the following: the name or facility, the description or scope of work, the project limits, the project cost or reasonable cost ranges, the fiscal year or 5-year ban, again, a range, and adherence to the RTP goals, which we'll discuss further within the presentation. Now, I want to note and stress that project information can be estimated. These are long-term projects. The MPO does not need exact information on this project at this stage. We understand projects change, especially projects that are 10+ years away from being realized. And before we get into the actual process, I just want to highlight the work that not only staff has done, but the RTP subcommittee has done to get the process to where it is today. We started this process in May of 2023, so a year ago. The RTP subcommittee was charged to guide the development of this process. By September, a draft proposal was presented at the RTP subcommittee.
Downstairs.
The RTP subcommittee in November recommended the proposal to the Transportation Advisory Committee. The TAC gave us comments. We went back to the TAC in February for the adoption of the process. And then, of course, at TPC in February, the process was fully adopted. So that is the background of the RTP. We're now going to get into the Regional Transportation Plan Project Development Process Overview. Excuse me. Okay, so we have 5 steps for this process. We have access, where the online application opens. We have submission, where their sponsor, you all, complete and submit individual project applications to our online portal. We have evaluations, where projects are evaluated, scored, and verified based on applicant information only. So again, projects are evaluated, scored, and verified based on application information only. Once that occurs, we'll have recommendation, where staff, HJC staff, will recommend projects be RTP eligible or selected for further refinement. And then finally, presentation. The fiscally constrained RTP project list and illustrative list are presented to TPC for approval. So we'll start with step 1, access. The open application period is for 60 days. The online portal will open on May 22nd at 9 a.m. That is a week from today. 60 days after that, the online portal will close. That is July 22nd at end of day. That's 5 p.m. For 60 days, we're including this because we want to ensure that our project sponsors can do any necessary public outreach, administrative approvals, data gathering, or any other necessary procedures within their organization. We're also asking for project sponsors to limit their responses to 750 words. We are encouraging concise responses, and we would certainly appreciate it staff-wise. To add, the project list will update every 2 years. That is our goal. We want to coordinate with the project selection process, and we want to be compliant with organizational air quality conformity procedures. So we want to have this on a schedule. Again, the RTP project development process, as of now, we want this to occur every 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So, speaking about step 2, submission, this is the information that you will be answering for each project submission. So applicant information, we want to be able to contact you all. We're asking for name, email, phone number, and the organization that you work for. We'll then be asking for project information. This is something you saw on the previous slide. We're asking for project name or facility, project description or scope of work, project limits, cost or cost ranges, fiscal year or 5-year band. We're asking to demonstrate the project need and the project desired outcome. Now next, we're asking if the project had any documented public outreach. If the project was incorporated in any public outreach, provide the source of the documented public outreach, and if not, just explain why. Next, we're asking if the project is present in previous studies or plans. If yes, please provide the name of the study or plan with the link and page number. And if no, just explain how the project came to be. And then we're also asking if a project is regionally significant, and if yes, explain how. Now, I want to speak about these last 3 bullet points: the public outreach, the presence of previous studies and plans, the regional significance. If a project says no to all of these things, they will not be docked. This is for informational purposes only for HGAC to better our planning practices, our project selection. So again, public outreach, presence of previous studies or plans, or regional significance. If you say no, your project submission will not be docked. This is for information purposes only for HGAC. Finally, we're asking project submissions 5 RTP-related questions, 1 for each goal, and to provide verification information in the form of a data or narrative. And we'll get into that shortly here. But we ask 5 questions related to each RTP goal, and we're asking to provide verification information in the form of a data or narrative. Okay, so we'll go through each one of those questions. RTP goal 1, improve safety. So the question we'll be asking in the application is, does your project improve safety within the transportation region? Now we've identified these 3 scoring criteria here. Does it decrease transportation network fatalities? Does it decrease transportation network serious injuries? Or does it improve safety within the transportation network in another way? And please explain in a narrative form. Now we highlight these 2, decrease fatalities and decrease in serious injuries, not only because they're probably the most important thing within the region regarding improving safety, but these are also our performance measures. These are how we can tangibly see the RTP being implemented into the transportation network. Now, if you look at the bottom here, these are verification examples. So if, let's say a project is submitted and our project sponsor says that this project does decrease transportation network fatalities, we're asking for verification examples. Now you can do 2 things. You can submit data. So here, provide a map that shows that fatalities or serious injuries are an issue within the project limits, right? Or you can provide a narrative form, explain how this project's improved safety within the transportation network. When you're submitting this, your application, you don't have to do both. You just have to successfully do one or the other. And I will also point out that just because we have an example for a map does not mean that is the only way that you can submit data to support your project. For RTP Goal 2, achieve and maintain a state of good repair, the question we're asking is, does your project achieve and maintain a state of good repair? Does it help achieve and maintain good condition for roads and or bridges? Does it help achieve and maintain good condition for transit facilities or equipment? And then of course we have this other to explain in a narrative as well. Verification examples that are not all encompassing, but examples are providing PACER or IRI ratings for the road condition, explain how this project will achieve and maintain a state of good repair, or complete the road condition form, which we'll get to later on this presentation. But again, not all encompassing. There are many ways to provide verification information to support your project. And we will be as flexible as possible in that regard. RTP goal number 3, move people and goods reliably and efficiently. We're asking, does your project help move people and goods reliably and efficiently? Of course. Our criteria are, does it increase or maintain travel time index? Or does it decrease annual peak hours of excessive delay? Of course, we have this other component here. Verification examples include, again, do not fully encompass calculating travel time index for a current corridor or the project's corridor, or explain in the narrative, again, how the project decreases annual peak hours of excessive delay. You can do one or the other, data or a narrative, you can do both, however you feel makes the most sense to support your project. RTP goal number 4, strengthen regional and economic competitiveness. Our question, of course, is, does your project help strengthen regional and economic competitiveness? Our scoring criteria are below. Does it increase or maintain truck travel time index? Does it offer alternatives to driving alone to combat traffic congestion on the roadway? Verification examples include, but are not all encompassing. For data, you can calculate the truck travel time index at its current form. You can do it if the project is implemented, if you have that type of technology or tools available. And then narrative, how does your project help provide or encourage alternatives to driving alone to combat traffic congestion? Finally, we'll be talking about RTP goal number 5. And these goals are not ordered in any which way. This is just how they came out. Not one is more important than the other within the RTP. But this question, does your project help conserve and protect natural and cultural resources? Does your project avoid or mitigate impacts to natural and cultural resources? Of course, that's the main question. And does your project contribute to a reduction of nitric oxide chemicals, volatile organic compounds, or greenhouse gas emissions? Or explained within a narrative form. Verification examples can include, but do not fully encompass here. So in data, identify a natural cultural resources within a quarter-mile buffer of the project limits. Just let us know that it's there. For narrative, explain how this project conserves and protects natural and cultural resources within a quarter-mile buffer of project limits. I know this is a quarter mile for both. That is not a hard or fast rule. That's just what I have. So this slide right here just shows all the information that I showed in the previous 5 slides. This would be good to go back in your books if you have the link or the presentation, just to have it on one slide, just for, it would be nice to have it on one slide. Okay, so moving on to step 3, evaluation. So you all will have 60 days to submit your projects. Once the project portal closes, staff will have 60 days to evaluate these projects. Now, evaluations, again, will be based solely on the project information submitted by the sponsor, so that would be you all. We are doing yes or no scoring, so no numerical values will be assigned to these projects. It is yes or no binary outcome. The bolden bullet points are probably the most important here. Submissions must successfully address at least 3 RTP goals to be RTP eligible. If a submission does not successfully address at least 3 RTP goals, they are not RTP eligible and they will not be placed on the RTP project list. Now, an evaluator, one of HHC staff, may flag a submission if the project could significantly and negatively affect an RTP goal. Those flagged submissions will be brought to the project sponsor, to you all, for review and/or adjustment before a recommendation is assigned. Finally, project sponsors will be notified of their project status after staff evaluation. So we will let y'all know, y'all won't be in the dark regarding the project status. Step 4, recommendation. Now, this is a little bit of what I just spoke about. So staff will evaluate a project. It'll go into one of 2 buckets, the RTP eligible bucket or for refinement. Now again, if it goes into refinement, those projects are not RTP eligible. They will not be placed on the RTP project list. If a project is found RTP eligible, that project list will go through fiscal constraint. Now, fiscal constraint basically is a process of demonstrating that RTP projects can be implemented using committed available or reasonably available revenues. So the project list will go through fiscal constraint, and we will have an RTP project list. That is 100% certain. That will be a list of fiscally constrained RTP eligible projects. It is also possible that we will have an illustrative list. Now, we'll talk a little bit more about what an illustrative list is, but this is a listing of RTP eligible projects not included in the RTP project list, and it is only developed if necessary. So if we have more projects submitted that come with a certain amount of money that we do not have the revenues to support, those projects would be added to the illustrative list. Finally, step 5, presentation. So a draft RTP project list will be produced after staff evaluation. Fiscal constraint will occur. That project list will go to TAC and TPC for action. Once TAC and TPC review it, give their comments, approve, and adopt, the approved finalized project list will undergo air quality conformity. Once conformity is complete, the conformity documents will go to our state and federal review for approval. Okay, so we have a couple informational slides. We'll talk first about regional significance. Now, as I mentioned earlier, project sponsors will answer if their project is regionally significant during the application process. The bold text is the Code of Federal Regulations definition for regional significance. A regionally significant project is a project that is on a facility that serves regional transportation needs that would normally be included in the modeled area's transportation network. This includes all principal arterial highways and all fixed guideway transit facilities that offer an alternative to regional highway travel. Now, examples of these include, but are not limited to, connecting major activity centers, major planned developments, retail malls, sports complexes, connecting intermodal transportation terminals, connecting rural population centers, and connecting key destinations in the region. Again, these are not all-encompassing. These are just some examples that we have for this slide. Next, discussing the illustrative list. Now, the illustrative list includes projects that would be included in the regional transportation plan if additional resources beyond those identified in the financial plan were to become available. An illustrative list is only developed if forecasted expenditures are more than expected revenues. Now, HGAC has never needed to develop an illustrative list, so the next iteration of the illustrative list will be our first. Projects on the illustrative list are not fiscally constrained. They're not placed on the model transportation plan. They are not subjected to air quality conformity determination, and they are not automatically added to the RTP project list if additional funds are identified. If an illustrative list is developed, it will be presented to TAC and TPC for approval as an official NPO project list. And then finally, discussing air quality conformity determination. So conformity demonstrates that projected emissions from transportation projects do not exceed the region's motor vehicle emission budget. For every new approval of the RTP project list, the TIP, the 10-year plan, the NPO must demonstrate conformity. So this is a very vital process for the NPO. Conformity will be completed every 2 years, which will allow biennial updates to the project list that I just described. We want our conformity to align with the scheduling of this process, the RTP project development process, and the project selection process. And this will allow further planning efforts that will be coordinated with conformity dates. The idea of scheduling everything, having everything on a timed basis could help further planning efforts for all of our projects. Okay, so the first presentation of this workshop is closing. So I do have some closing points. Slides and the recording of this presentation will be available on HGAC's website after the workshop and before the opening of the online portal. Project sponsors may submit applications starting May 22nd at 9 a.m. This is to reiterate from earlier. The online portal will close on July 22nd at 5 p.m. And we just want to say, staff is here to work with our project sponsors. I know I've spoken with folks offline, have had meetings. We are here to help streamline this process. If you're stuck on this process, we're here to help you out. So please do not hesitate to email or call myself. Again, Stephen Keen, Senior Planner here. I will be your first contact at HGAC for this process. So if there's a request that would be better for somebody else, please just contact me and I will direct you to any which way you need to go. So I will close my presentation here. I would like to wait for the Q&A at the end of the session. So I'd like to go into the online portal presentation. So if we could do that. Philip, would you like to come up? Okay.
All right, good morning, everybody. I'd like to give a demo of the online portal, like Stephen said. Before I begin with the demonstration, I just want to let everybody know this is kind of a preview of the portal. All the instructions, everything you need to know to access the portal, to use it, we're going to have a web page available next week that you can reference. So don't feel like you need to memorize these links, all the steps, or anything like right here. This is just essentially a preview of what the portal looks like and how to complete an application. As Stephen said, the online portal will open up next Wednesday at 9 a.m. The first step for everybody involved is going to be to complete the registration form. This gets you access to the portal so you can submit one or more projects. You only need to complete this registration process one time. It's a very simple registration form. Just ask for name, email address, phone number, organization, so basic contact information. Everything you see here on the registration form is required. And then, of course, we ask you to create a password. So you're going to use a combination of the email address that you provide with the password you create here to log in and access the project submission portal. And again, all these links, everything here will be made available to you on a website, on a web page next week. Once you complete the registration form, you'll receive a confirmation email that'll also include all the links and information that you need to get started. And then the next step after we've completed the registration form is to log into the portal. If you ever have any trouble with your password, you've forgotten it or need to update it or change it, on the login form we have a self-service password, reset password form that you can use. Once we log into the portal, you'll see a few things here. If this is your first time logging into the portal, you'll want to get started with an application with this begin application. This will begin the project submission process for you. The portal does allow you to start, save your progress, and resume your project submission at any time. So when you log into the portal, if you have any previously submitted or in progress project submissions, you'll see them listed here in the portal, along with a status to let you know, have you submitted this project yet? And if you have submitted it previously, you'll be able to download a PDF copy for your records. Now what I'll do now is begin a new submission. The submission form consists of 8 pages. Begins with the project information section. Everything that you see listed on the form will be required unless it's specified otherwise. So for example, if we look at the project information section, we see that question 3A asks for a file upload, but we do see that this one is optional. So any optional fields will be labeled clearly. And like I mentioned, you can save your progress at any time on a project submission. And if we've saved one and we want to resume work on a submission, again, we can return to the portal and we can see that for my test project here, it has not been submitted, so I do need to come in and complete and submit it. And this will resume where we last left off. The second page will be the supplemental information section. Some questions will be conditional, so if you say yes or no to a question, you'll have to answer a follow-up question, and this could change depending on the answer that you provide. The remaining pages cover each of the individual 5 RTP goals, and these all follow the same format where you have to identify, does your project accomplish this goal, yes or no? And then if it does, identify one of the 3 checkboxes. You can do one or more. And then we provide either that narrative or a data upload. And again, either one is required. And then this process repeats itself for the remaining 4 goals. There is one difference I'd like to point out here on the second goal, the state of good repair. This is the road and bridge condition form that was mentioned earlier in the presentation. If your project does help achieve the state of good repair on roads and bridges, if we do check this second box here, we do have the option to upload this road and bridge condition form as your data submission for this RTP goal. And again, you can save your progress at any time. Anytime you use any of these action buttons down here, you go forward or back or save or return to the portal, the system will automatically save your progress so you do not lose your work. So here I'm on page 5, I could return to the portal. And then if I resume, I'm back on page 5 where I left off. And I'll jump to the last page of the application. This is kind of your review and submit. This gives you an overall view of your progress of the application. All sections must be completed before you can submit your application to ensure that we get complete and full applications. This will give you a status of each section, whether it's completed, yes or no, whether you've responded to all of the questions presented to you. And this also gives you links to jump back to a specific section if you see one that is not completed yet that you need to complete before you submit. So if I need to go back to the project information section, click on the link, and it takes me back to that section. It will also identify if you are missing any information, which fields you're missing, to give you an idea of what you need to complete to submit this application. Once you submit a completed application, you will see a confirmation page and you will get a confirmation email for this project submission. Also attached to that email will be a PDF copy of your completed application. And again, after you've completed one, you'll be able to re-download that PDF copy if you can't find or need to download another copy of the application. And that is the end of this demo. We try to keep it, again, as simple and quick as possible. As Stephen said, we'll be here to help you out, so any kind of questions you have during this process of registering or completing an application, reach out to us, let us know, and I can provide any kind of technical assistance with the portal.
Great. Thank you, Philip. So that is the end of the online portal presentation. What we're going to do now, we are running a little ahead of schedule, which I think is great. What we can do now, okay, cool. Hey, Philip, stop sharing. Okay. So what we're gonna do now, we have about 10 minutes. We're gonna do a short Q&A. We do have the longer Q&A later on in the meeting, but I will share my screen real quick. And if there's anybody that needs to ask a question, to reference a slide on the original presentation, we can do that. But right now, I would like to open up the floor to the people in person, the people online, for about 10 minutes of Q&A. So, anybody like to start? Sure, let's go with Rachel. Rachel, can you wait to get the mic? Somebody's coming over.
Thank you. I had a quick question for you about the regionally significant criteria. You talk about fixed guideway. Mm-hmm. Does it have to be in its entirety fixed guideway for transit, or is it a percentage, or can there be like a certain segment if it has to go mixed flow?
I believe it's totally mixed guideway. I can get with you after the meeting to make sure that's correct. Actually, Stephen, do you have an answer to that? Oh, okay. Twin, can we go to the back, please? We'll go Stephen next.
Good morning. Question on the portal. Is there a way to get the entire list of questions for the questionnaire prior to going in and completing each section?
Yes, there is, and we will send that out to the project sponsor attendees prior to going live. I think, Stefan, you're next.
Hey, Stephen.
Hey.
How you doing?
Yeah.
Hey, I got slide 22.
Slide 22.
Where you talk about the definition of regionally significant.
Okay. Let me get to that real quick for everybody online. Sure.
Okay. I guess my question is that a change from the definition of regionally significant that we operated under previously? Because previously the definition of regionally significant was any project on a roadway that was part of the conformity network. Because obviously if we don't meet conformity, you can't even open the doors and do business because, I mean, we're an entertainment area. So the idea was any projects on the conformity network were considered regionally significant. So I guess my question to you, is that changed? And if so, how and why?
So I would say, as far as I'm concerned, it has not changed. This definition, as I mentioned earlier, it's from the Code of Federal Regulations. It is something that we abide by. When it comes to the conformity network, I can get with you after the meeting to discuss further on that, just to ensure we're on the same page.
Fair enough.
All right, so I had a question on slide 11. So it says it's going to happen every 2 years. What if I have a project that is a federal earmark? So it just drops in, and it's a project that is an improvement, but we think it's a widening, and I can't group it. So is it going to have to wait 2 years to be added to the RTP?
In that scenario, if there's a scenario where it's more of a surprise that comes to us, I would ask you to come to the MPO to discuss further. We would really rather have the 2-year schedule because that's more often than we do now, and more often than a lot of MPOs do now, doing conformity every 2 years and doing this project process every 2 years. But if that were to occur, contact me, contact the MPO, and we can discuss best path forward.
I think thankfully that the road is not regionally significant. It's like a county road or something, but still it's got federal funds on it, so I can't group it or make it not appear on our RTP list.
Are there any questions online?
Hi. Yes, can we
Oh.
go to slide number 15?
Which slide was that?
15.
What is the, what is,
It's RTP goal number 3, moving.
okay.
Yeah, I want to call people attention to travel time index. What is that?
Travel time index
I
is,
think a travel time index is the congested travel time over the free flow speed travel time.
so it's the, it's a
Yeah.
data number that shows the reliability of the network.
Travel time, I think travel time is, the definition is how long it take you during a regular, for example, PM peak period. You travel, it take you 60 minutes. And then without traffic, the free flow speed, it will take you 30 minutes. Then the travel time index will be 260 divided by, right?
Yeah.
And then if we want, does it increase, make the number higher? That means congestion get worse.
Right, so I understand how that reads. What we're really trying to say is how do we make it more reliable?
Yeah,
So increase, if that's the wrong word, then
I
that's,
think it's the wrong word. It should
Okay.
use decrease or improve.
okay.
That's what I think. This one and also the next one, goal 3, for truck travel time index.
The wording of that can be fixed, but I do want to ensure everybody knows we're trying to make congestion
Yeah,
better.
the question is asked, does this improve your travel time or travel reliability, right? So I think that word is not proper.
Okay. We can absolutely change the wording.
Yeah, this one and the next one.
Oh. Okay, we have a hand raised. Okay. I think,
Okay.
we need,
I have a follow-up question. So I represent a city. Do we have access to the travel time index, or is it just TxDOT that has access to that?
so if you don't have access to the travel time index, then you don't need to use that particular criteria. You can use the other criteria. If you don't use these first 2 criteria and you have to use other, that is completely fine. We will not dock you for not using those first 2 criteria. We're just asking you to support your project.
Okay, so we just skipped that question.
Yeah. Well, not the question, but if you do not have the data for the travel time index, you do not need to use it. You can use the 2nd criteria or the 3rd criteria point and still successfully address your project.
Okay. And what's the 2nd and the 3rd criteria?
So this would be a decreased annual peak hours of excessive delay, and then any other. So if you cannot support your project saying that it improves travel time index or it decreases annual peak hours of excessive delay, if you cannot verify that, you can use the other in the narrative and explain how it helps move people and goods reliably and efficiently.
Thank you.
Okay, and I think we have somebody online. Can we go to them?
Yes, we have Victoria online. Victoria, you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you. If we have let's just say a 7-mile roadway that we know should be submitted to the RTP, and it's not going to be developed in a one phase of, I guess it's not going to be one project. It's going to be broken down into phases. Would it be better for us to submit it as one project, or to assume the limits now and submit as several segments of that project?
I would ask for one project. We do not want phasing. But we can discuss that further offline, because that is a good topic that was not discussed here, the idea of project phasing. We can add a slide that we created in-house to the webpage that addresses it. So thank you for your question.
Okay, thank you.
Currently, we have a transportation thoroughfare plan in the county of Montgomery, and in the city we now have 2 high schools. And I saw on their rule and destinations and We have a large parcel of property that we are looking at doing a southern loop on that would, our town gets completely locked down when there's a football game or anything. And if it's already on a thoroughfare plan for the county, but it has no inception date, could we present it here or apply here for assistance?
For particular questions like that, if you could come to me after the meeting, send me an email, give me a call. I think that you'd probably get a better answer from me than right now, if that's okay.
Okay. Does that mean it's a yes?
Okay, so I think Alberto.
Thank you, Stephen. I have a question as it relates to just data overall. Are there any guidance documentation similar to how you released for the project selection process as to what are you guys looking for in terms of the format of the data, the quality of the data, right? There's probably a travel time index from 2019. Is that enough to project it in today's date, or are you looking something of like 2 years or sooner? At least a little bit more guidance as to what kind of data you're looking for. I know that we're looking ahead, but good data in, good data out.
Right, and I think the answer to that would be we want to provide as much flexibility to you all as possible at first. So if you feel it's good data, all you have to do is support it within the application. Of course, the more recent data, the better, that reflects the region. So if you have questions on specific data, does this work, does this not work, you can absolutely contact me. We can discuss it with our data analytics team when it comes to specifics. But with that, if you believe that it's good data and you believe that it still reflects the region to a significant degree, then all you need to do is support it within the application. Mm-hmm.
On slide 13 about safety, can you help me understand the expectation, how we would respond to that for a new roadway, for one that's not existing?
Sure. So for a new roadway, and again, we're getting into the specifics, so we can talk about this more in a broader scale after the meeting. But in a new roadway, you could say that this has all the safety components, all the up-to-date safety components. You can add active transportation to it. You can ensure, well, now I'm getting into actual kind of engineering. Yeah. So I think with that, you could go into the other, explain in the narrative, this is a new roadway. We expect this to be a safe roadway because of X, Y, and Z. And we will absolutely not dock you because it's a new roadway at all. Perry?
I just want to make a quick generalization just to remind everybody, this is the RTP, it's 10 years out. So a lot of this data you may not have yet, it may not be that specific, and a more general answer is acceptable. And correct me if I'm wrong here at all. But if you have projects that you're trying to move faster, then you need to be looking, sooner in and looking at the tip and the project and other processes that HGAC goes through. So just kind of a reminder for those that are trying to get down really, really specific, you may not need to at this point. And a more overarching answer will be acceptable. The idea is to get the projects in there so that HGAC can see where things are moving and get a better idea of what's coming down the pike, and then can assist bringing it in and getting it closer and closer to actually being done. And I say that just because I've served on the RTP subcommittee for several years and have been through all of this at that level. So if you haven't and you would like to come visit an RTP subcommittee meeting, I think you should. Come in and visit and listen in, or just get on when we have our meetings so that you can see how this is being done. And if you have any questions, it's a great place to get information. So that's my commercial. Thank you.
And I think that is a great time to take our break. Again, we're going to have a longer Q&A session at the end of the meeting. Right now, we have it scheduled for 5 minutes. So it is 9:55 right now. So let's do a 5-minute break and then reconvene at about 10 o'clock, 10:02, somewhere around there. So you can go do it. All right, y'all, we're gonna start up soon. Huh? Hey, everybody. We're gonna start up real quick. So if people could take their seats, that would be. Is it not on? I think it's on. It's on. Hey, everybody. We're about to start up the presentation again. If you could please take your seats. Okay, so here, I'll go first if you want to go sit, and then you can come up. We're just about to start back up. Okay, so for the second part of the presentation, we will be presenting the 5 RTP goals, as well as data applications that could enhance your project submission. Now, with these 5 presentations that we're doing, these are not the only tools that you can use to support your project in the process. These are suggestions, these are available, they're publicly available, free to use data tools that you can use to support your project within the online portal. I really want to stress, you do not have to use these tools. These are suggestions. So we'll start out with Vishu Lingala on RTP Goal 1.
Yeah. Good morning, everybody. This is Vishu Lingala. One second, let me share my screen. All right. Yeah. Yep. All right, so I'm going to just talk about the goal number 1, safety, improve regional safety, and then talk about the application that we have on our interactive web applications on our website and how to extract the safety data if you need it to submit as a verifiable data for supporting safety or goal number 1 in the RTP. So like Stephen mentioned, you don't have to use our application, but I want to let you know that all the data that we use is based off of CRIS. It's actually basically a copy of the CRIS data, and we show it in different format, that's it. And it shows some analysis. And again, this data is going to be useful for the roadways or the projects that are currently proposed to go into the RTP on the existing networks. If it is a new road, you won't find any supporting historical data, but then you will have to rely on the narrative response for responding to goal number 1. So let me take you back to the application. So this is the interactive applications website on our HGAC. Oh, is it not sharing? Oh. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. So first of all, how do we get to this this page? I want to show you that too. So when you go to first HGAC website, and within this website, you can go to the quick links down here in the regional data imagery and research applications. You can click the drop-down menu and go to interactive web applications. That will take you to all the interactive web applications. And under this, you have various different web applications. And if you have already participated in the project selection process for the TIP and the 10-year plan, you must have already seen this website and used a bunch of these applications also. So from this, you go to the regional crash data tool, and it looks like we have from 5 years of data that's from 2018 to 2022. And on these regional crash data, what you want to go to is the the crash data viewer. And this will open up a web map with the current all crashes layer already selected. Now, on this data, what you're doing is basically doing a location analysis. So before you do the location analysis, just to make the application move faster, I would suggest that the sponsors who are using this tool to unselect the all crashes data, because you can select it back again. But first to do the location analysis, because you need to do the location analysis. Why? Because to see what is the safety condition on a given road or where your project is located. So what you do is first zoom into the location of wherever you're interested in or wherever your project is. Let's go to Richmond Avenue. So Richmond Avenue, and then on this, in order to do the location analysis, what you have to do is click on this widget, location analysis widget, and then here you will get tools to draw the project on the map itself. And you have three tools, whether either you can select or draw a point project, which is like a grade separation or an intersection improvements, and those type of projects, or a small spot or a location, one spot based improvement like an intersection improvement or grade separation, you can use a point tool. And if it is a corridor project, and generally in the RTP you probably will have corridor tools, you basically go, and if the project is to widen Richmond Avenue, you just draw the project on Richmond Avenue from point A to point B, and then create a buffer. So, and when you create a buffer, you want to make sure that you are selecting both directions of the traffic flow. Otherwise, it will only select half of the crashes that occurred on the road within the last 5 years. So what we suggest is to use 0.01 miles as a buffer that will cover an undivided road for both directions, like a 4-lane undivided road for both directions. But if you have a divided road with a grass median or a raised median, a wider raised median and stuff, make sure to select as wide as a buffer to select both directions on the road. So and make sure it captures the full both directions of the road, and then go back to the, actually all the crashes will be available here, but just to see on the map too, go back and turn on all the crash data, and then you can see all the crashes that occurred on that road and that are included within this data selection. And now on this, at the bottom part of your screen, if you select all crashes, that will show you what type of crashes and what kind of severity was seen on those crashes in the last 5 years. So there were in total of 171 crashes that occurred on Richmond Avenue in the past 5 years, 18 to 22, and then has 0 fatalities, 0 motorist fatalities, 0 pedestrian fatalities, and there is non-injury crashes of 62. There was 58 motorist injuries and pedestrian injury 1, and so on and so forth. But towards the end of this data, what you'll see is pedestrian injury crashes and cyclist injury crashes. But what we are asking for you in the RTP to provide as a data is to tell us how many crashes that occurred in the last 5 years, and specifically how many fatalities occurred and what is the fatality rate, and how many serious injuries occurred and what is the serious injury rate. And along with that, you can provide the non-motorist injuries too, which is bike and pedestrian. So first, in the fatalities and serious injuries, This tool does not provide you crash rates separated by severity, such as fatalities and serious injuries. So for that, you will have to use a methodology that's recommended by Federal Highway, or you can find the methodology on Federal Highway website, or we can provide you that methodology, how to calculate the rates. But what you get from this tool is basically how many crashes occurred in the last 5 years that were fatalities, or how many of crashes were of serious injury. So that's what you get from the data. And other than this data, you will be also using narrative to respond to the safety goal in the RTP project selection process call. And that's all I have to cover. And we'll take the questions at the end at 11 o'clock after we all finish.
Okay, thank you, Vishu. So we'll move on to our next presenter, which is me again. So I apologize. Let me share my screen real quick. Okay, so we mentioned the road condition form a little bit earlier when discussing RTP goal number 2. For RTP goal number 2, achieve and maintain a state of good repair, we could not find a publicly available free-to-use data application for this presentation. So what we did was we developed a road condition form. This will help answer RTP goal number 2, criteria number 1, does your project help achieve and maintain good condition for roads and/or bridges? Now, the form will be available within the online portal, as Philip showed, as well as on the RTP project development process webpage. And of course, with this, and for all relevant links within this process, they will be provided on the webpage as well. So getting into what we're asking on the road condition form, I know it looks like a lot. It's not as much as it looks, but we'll be asking our project sponsors to answer the following. Do you have a PACER rating for that, the pavement surface evaluation and rating for that road? Do you have the International Roughness Index number for that road? We're asking if it's available. So those are not required. It'd be really nice if they had it, but if you do not have it, you will not be docked on your application. We'll then be asking what is the facility type, what are the existing conditions, and describe the facility. We'll be asking for facility age, and what was the year for the most recent maintenance, and what occurred in that maintenance. We'll then be asking for AADT, average annual daily traffic, truck volume, or any other current or projected traffic metric or volume metric. We'll then be asking, is this road or bridge present in an asset management plan or other similar maintenance plan or document? Is this road, what is the facility drainage condition and description for the road? Or if it's a bridge, what is the bridge erosion condition and describe as well? And of course, we'll add some resiliency type questions. Is the facility vulnerable to flooding? Will the project help alleviate the flooding and explain how? And then does the project result in a more resilient facility? Which is a very broad question. Does it result in a more resilient facility and how? So these are the questions we'll be asking in the road condition form. The road condition form is not required. It is not required. This is in lieu of a data application for RTP goal number 2, achieve and maintain a state of good repair. The first criteria, good conditions for roads and/or bridges. So that is the end of my short presentation on the road condition form. We now have Christopher Whaley coming up to discuss the second half of the RTP goal when it comes to transit facilities and equipment. Yeah, you can do that.
Good with the mic or what? Okay. Yes, to this. Oh, okay. Awesome, thank you. Yeah, so my name is Chris Whaley. I'm going to give just a brief overview of the transit asset management process, and then Thomas Gray will give an overview for the National Transit Database portion. So this is just showing just a brief overview of where transit asset management, or TAM, is referenced in Chapter 2 of the RTP, so talking about the state of good repair goal. So transit asset management, or TAM, is the acronym I'll use through this presentation. Is the tracking of the condition of transit assets at an agency level. So again, with the stated goal of ensuring state of good repair. So this helps the agency's transit services stay reliable, and this is a benefit for both the riders as well as the agency staff. So my experience on this is, as HTC's role as the MPO is to gather data from all the agencies across the region and aggregating them into a target. So this is the Federal Transit Administration, so housed within the US DOT. It requires each transit agency that receives any funding from them to submit a TAM plan at least once every 4 years. You can do it more frequently, but at least once every 4 years. So this has to show the condition of all major assets. It's important to note that this includes assets that may not have been purchased using federal dollars. And I can provide a PDF with the actual link, but I've also linked a nice summary fact sheet that the FTA has about this. And I guess the last thing to note is that, as you can see, it was only introduced in 2016. So this is a very new requirement for all transit agencies that is kind of still sort of being implemented. So it's by no means, it's very much a work in progress. So this table shows the 4 asset categories that the TAM process tracks. So rolling stock refers to vehicles used to transport fare-paying passengers. Equipment, on the other hand, refers to support or non-revenue vehicles. The facilities refers to any physical structure used in transit operations, so this can include passenger waiting areas, as well as something like a maintenance garage. So the infrastructure category only applies to those agencies that operate rail or fixed guideway service. So that includes like bus rapid transit, for example. And so for all of these, the useful life benchmark, so that refers to an estimate of the number of years a vehicle or other asset can be in service or useful and still be considered to be in a state of good repair. And so really what that's looking at is how the amount of time it's cost effective to operate that asset before the ongoing maintenance costs outweigh the replacement costs. Again, like I said, it's every 4 years that they're required to both submit the plans and by extension set targets for the percent of assets in each category that will be beyond their useful life. And I guess one other thing to note too is that there's no, incentive or reward or anything like that for meeting or exceeding your targets, and on the other side, there's no punishment or anything like that for failure to meeting. It's really kind of this bird's eye view, both at the transit agency level and then for us at the regional level, to kind of see where investment is either needed or strategies are indeed working to keep all the assets in good condition. And lastly, I'll just include this. So this is kind of just an alternate series of funding. I think most of the transit agency folks will probably be familiar with this, but these are grants that the so FTA or Federal Transit Administration will distribute directly to agencies. So the 5307 is probably I think the most common, at least for the agencies in our region. So these are operation and maintenance funds only. And then the 5310, and 5311 are a little more less used, but and again, I guess the other thing to know is these are awarded by urbanized area. So for example, in the Houston urbanized area, Metro is the designated recipient, so all the money will flow through them. So Fort Bend, for example, if they get some of this funding, it is actually explicitly awarded to Metro and then flows through Metro to them. And this is by no means an exhaustive list, so I have a link on there to all the grants. I chose not to include more just because some of them are very specific on what they will or will not fund. But yeah, the link will be there, so you can, and I can forward that after. I think that's all I have, so I will turn it over to Thomas, who will talk about the National Transit Database.
Thanks, Chris. Good morning. Thomas Gray, a Principal Transportation Planner here at the Houston-Galveston Area Council. Want to talk about a tool or a source that may be useful to you. If you're a transit agency, if you work in transit, you already know about the National Transit Database because you report to it. But for those of you who don't, I wanted to talk about it real quick. Started in 1974, grant recipients, i.e. transit providers, are required to submit their data annually. Other agencies that may get federal transportation grants like TERSs or management districts, they report based on their fiscal year. The data is available at transit.gov/NTD/NTD data. And then transit agency profiles, these are annual profiles for every transit agency in the region. They include data such as ridership, asset condition, and capital expenditures. I'm just going to click through here real quick, show you the website, and
I think he only shared. I think you'll have to stop sharing.
Oh, okay.
I think he only shared the slides directly.
All right, let's see here. Yeah, there we go. That's it. Okay, sorry about that. So if you go to the NTD's website, transit agency profile, let's just say Metro, for example. I just want to show you what's here and what data is available. We apply it, Metropolitan Transit Authority for Harris County. So here's a transit profile for Metro for every fiscal year, 2022 being the most recent year. 2023 data won't be available until later this year. There is a lag with the National Transit Database as they collect this information. But all of our area transit providers, Metro, Harris County Transit, Fort Bend County Transit, the Woodlands, Island Transit down in Galveston, will have one of these profile sheets. And so I'll just open this up, and you can see here's your 2022 annual agency profile for Metro. It has all the information about the area they serve, the number of vehicles they have, assets such as revenue vehicles and service vehicles, track miles, annual passenger miles, unlinked trips, ridership data, and just modal characteristics. This is broken down further by light rail, BRT, bus, van pool, demand response, et cetera. If you go down to the second page, you'll see 2022 asset management. And this, like Chris said, is fairly recent development for the National Transit Database. But all the asset management details that Metro has provided to the National Transit Database can be found down here. Performance measures, their targets, the percentage not in state of good repair. In this case, the lower the number, the better. Just, for example, the rolling stock, 5% of the light rail vehicles are not in state of good repair, 2% of the light rail track is not in state of good repair, et cetera. And then their metrics, the age of the average fleet, the light rail's average fleet is 10.4 years, bus is 7.3 years, et cetera. So it's just some very high level information that just gives you an idea of what the state of good repair, the asset management situation that our regional transit agencies are currently experiencing or have experienced in 2002 in this case. And it's just another tool, another reference that you can use if you have a project that you think can advance a transit agency's state of good repair. Now I need to go back to the presentation. Let's see if this works. looking at. Yes. Got it. Oh, share the screen. That one right there. Okay. Okay. So the state of good repair metrics, there's the TAM performance tool that Chris kind of alluded to, and the scales they have here, the ratings, if it's a 5.0 to 4.8, it's excellent, and 1.0 to 1.9, it's poor. These are just metrics that the NTD uses to kind of explain what the state of good repair status for different assets are. So basically, if you have questions about transit asset management, Chris is your person. If you have questions about the National Transit Database, what kind of information is provided, how to use it, please talk to me. And I think that's it, unless you had anything else.
Okay, thank you, Thomas. Thank you, Chris. We will be moving on to our next presentation. Our next presentation will encompass both RTP Goal 3 and RTP Goal 4. And that will be with LD White. Now, LD, all of our presentations so far and after LD will be from HAC staff. LD is with the Texas Transportation Institute, and he has decided to come help us out. So LD, if you want to come.
No, well, I may bounce, but I can do that. So sure. Yeah. So it is. I'll just show you that way you don't see the applications. There we go. You can start the presentation there, but too far down. That one. There it is. I'm gonna click on the right button eventually. Probably just minimize. I can get rid of that video screen for you. There we go. That should be good. Just give it a... Oh, they're even better. Thank you, everybody, for being a little bit patient with me. I realized this morning after I'd sent the presentation to Stephen, I didn't actually put the links to some of the things I need to put links in, so I a little bit overcomplicated things. But I'm happy to be here with you today. As Stephen mentioned, I'm with the Texas A&M Transportation Institute, and I'm program manager of the Visual Analytics program there. And we have built a few congestion management analysis tools through the Texas Department of Transportation that Stephen reached out to me and we got to talking about it, and I think that they can help out some with being able to provide assistance on the data side of some of the goals. So one of the first ones that I'm going to talk about really kind of, originally we talked about this being one tool would serve one goal and another tool would serve the other, but they're really kind of interchangeable. They're not necessarily set on one. So the first one I'm going to talk about is what we call the Compat tool. It was originally designed around being for the congestion management process for the MPOs of Texas. So what it is it's nothing more than a planning tool to help you monitor and analyze congestion. Since it was originally created for the CMP process, congestion management process, for the MPOs to be able to monitor and to be able to submit their CMPs easier, faster, and more reliable and consistent across years, because you have a consistent data set that's getting produced every year. So we started this 5 years ago with the help of TxDOT. The data behind it, and many of you may have already know about the Texas 100 most congested roadways. I work with the group extensively that does that, and we actually started building a while back an entire statewide data set, not just the data set that you appear in that, but it's the same data set, it's the same calculations, it's the same thing that if you go to hear about it coming from the legislature or coming from TxDOT, it's the same thing. So it provides a lot of consistency across data sets and data that's getting calculated and how it's being done. We have numerous MPOs that are using it right now for their CMP process. So it's kind of constantly getting overhauled and evaluated and how it fits that process for them the best. And when we share I've got the links to these. Both of these are online web tools, free to use. There is no license. There's no signing up. You click on the link and you can start using it. TxDOT has been very gracious in us being able to do that and be able to provide this free without login. So that's why it's very beneficial in something like this, because it has alternative uses than necessarily what we originally designed it for. So this was one of the first goal when we were talking about Compat for this. Compat is not going to necessarily tell you the exact answer of will it help you improve this. It is not a calculation tool that it's going to tell you if you type in a project, I want to add 2 lanes, it's not going to tell you what the new congestion numbers are. But what it's going to tell you is and provide you context around where your project location is, what's happening there already. Is there something to be concerned with? Is there something that this could possibly help to solve if I add in a specific project? The data set that's behind this is not all the way through every roadway you're going to find in your area. It is largely functional class 6 and above. So your local roads are not going to appear in this. But that does not mean it's not beneficial for that, because most of the time, if you can find an area where you have a roadway that's showing poor roadway performance, congestion, travel time index, there's a good chance that some of the local roads around that are also experiencing it too. So it's not necessarily going to provide that number for every single solitary project you go to find, but it's going to provide that context so that you can be able to provide that information to that narrative that you're trying to provide as you go through this RTP process. So as I was kind of talking about the data a little bit earlier, it's produced as part of that top 100 most congested roadway segments. There's actually, I believe we have now 5 or 6 years of data inside the tool now, so you can actually go backwards and look over time. We're in the process of getting the newest data year up. We've had some challenges with it because of some data changes, but it should be up. And so we usually always run 1 year behind. This is planning level stuff, so it's going to be based off of like the current year that's going up is going to be based off of 2023 or 2022 traffic volumes from TxDOT, and then we have proprietary speed from a company called INRIX. So we're going to run a year behind every year, but every year it gets updated and you get a new one in. So everything is stored. This actually is what the comprehensive network across the state of Texas is covered inside this database that supplies the data to Compat. Everything is stored at the TxDOT roadway inventory segment level. So that provides us a lot of flexibility to be able to get information across various projects, various links, not just something that's predefined or by some arbitrary network. It's TxDOT's network. So we know where the volumes are coming from. We know the data that's feeding it. We know how it's getting built. So as I mentioned before, it's covering a lot of everything but the local roads. This is actually a zoomed in area, and honestly, I don't even remember which area, where I picked that from, but I just picked that because it shows you how that it does have some local coverage. This is not just on system roads. This is not just major classifications, but it's not driving all the way down to your specific local road. So you're going to get information. You're going to be able to provide context around the congestion, the travel time index, but you may not be able to get to that exact number, but it's still going to provide you plenty of information to help in the RTP process. It contains all kinds of the traditional mobility performance measures that are included in when people talk about these things. Travel time index, we have a reliability index that we call planning time index, congestion cost, there's greenhouse gas emissions on each segment, both due to congestion and just in normal operating conditions. So it has a lot of information hiding behind it, and there's even more that we have available that we're working on to get the additional information available through the tool. Now, most of this, I'm going to go through the presentation rather than jump live back and forth and try to do that. I'll pull the live site up here in just a minute and kind of walk through a couple of things. But instead of bogging that down with that, I'll make sure and run through what all we have in there and how it can help. So one of the things we have is we have regional summaries. So you can look at very different kinds of summaries, whether it be by functional class, by area, by county. And that just gives you a good snapshot of what's happening in the general area you're looking at. Because we have the multiple years, you can look at trends, you can look at things that are happening across time. Is this something that's more recent? Is this something that happened before? Obviously, every time I mention anything about trends, got to mention COVID through this stuff. you see dive into this thing sometime and pull up multiple years and see what it is, and everybody can see what COVID. But now that we're starting to come out of that and mostly come back, the trend is starting to reset itself, and so it's starting to get to be a little bit more stable back to where it was before COVID caused the jump in things. But it's interesting to be able to have these kinds of tools to go back and to be able to see that as well, because then when you do have in your region other things that may happen, you can actually capture that as well to see where change is occurring. One of the things that we try to do a lot with, especially the group and the program that I lead now, is we're big on how do we tell the visual story. Numbers do a lot to help to analyze things, but so do the visual. I can detect a lot just from having a map representation of things. Not just to communicate with others, but to also be able to do a high-level analysis of where to start digging in and diving in deeper for that. So we try to do a lot, as much as we can, with being able to provide that visual inspection that can occur, and being able to do that where users have the options to go in to be able to change those. So you can actually go in and change the number of bins that you have in these. You can change color schemes. Go in and just get you a good representation of what's going on. But one of the biggest things, and I think that will be most important to this group, if should you choose to use this, is actually what we have in there is a custom corridor creation. So all of this is running off of these small, and I almost called riff segments, these roadway inventory segments that are very small. That's not how projects and how we talk about corridors. That information is great to have, but that's not what we look at. It's going to be a combination of 5, 6, 8, maybe 10 of those, or what your actual project's going to look like. Well, inside of all of these, we have the ability to be able to create those on the fly. So you can go into your map, click on a segment, say I want to start here, click on another segment along that same corridor, say I want to end it here, from here to here, kind of like going and putting push pins in a map, or your directions in Google Maps or something like that. And the tool itself then aggregates the roadway performance across that corridor to get you one number across your larger corridor, not just the individual pieces. A couple of the other things that we have in here that just kind of provide contextual information, because there's always things that are going on around where you may be putting your projects. It could be impacting things that could be beneficial to know, or it could be just stuff just interesting for other uses. We have found all kinds of uses for this tool outside of what we designed it for. I hear all the time, hey, I'm using it to do, I know people that will literally use this just to pull traffic volumes. They don't use the roadway performance at all. Hey, I just wanted to find out what the traffic volume was on one of my roadways, so I went and clicked on your tool instead. Great, hey, you're using it. That's fine with me. But one of the things that we've really found that's beneficial is to be able to look at the UTP projects that TxDOT has on the books already, and to be able to visualize that alongside of the roadway performance, or in your case, along where you may be looking at proposing a project. That is happening live time with TxDOT data. We're using the TxDOT open data portal. We're not storing anything that pulls up with that visual of that, where that little circle is, where it turns blue, that's where TxDOT actually has a current active project. Providing that allows us to be able to see not just what's happening, why, but now we start to see, is that something that's been a long-term project that could be actually causing the congestion or on an annual basis? Or is this something that could be, that's being done to actually kind of combat that at some point? just another bit of context to be able to, the other thing that we have in there are these speed profiles. So 15-minute increment speed profiles so that you get kind of an indication of, is this a time of day? What type of peaks am I looking at based off of these INRIC speeds, these probe data speeds? What am I looking at in variation across not only weekday and weekend, but then across time in these 15-minute increments? All of this stuff is down, except for the, so like the things with the UTP projects, we provide links where you can see those and download those from TxDOT from their open data portal. Everything else we provide that should be downloadable and to be able to download snapshots of images, download data, all of these things starting getting linked together. So on this slide, I wanted to pull in a couple of things just a couple of things, describe some of the variables that are included inside of that. And it was interesting that you mentioned the travel time index earlier, because I had that coming up on a slide. I was like, great, now I know. Because these things are important to keep in mind what they actually are. Because we don't look at necessarily truck reliability in the same way that if you look at, I get too many T's every time I, TTTR, truck travel time reliability. We use a metric right now more often called the planning time index. It's slightly different, but it's still going to give you that indication of reliability of what's happening across the roadway. These things it took me a while to get when I started doing all of this years ago, to really get an idea of what is a travel time index? That generally doesn't make sense to a lot of people when you start thinking about it until you really get a good grasp on what it is. So all that is saying is, if you have an travel time index of 1.3, it's going to take 30% longer during that peak period. Your worst conditions, it's going to take 30% than it would under light travel. And so that's going to start telling you things about how your roadways are performing versus the free flow conditions. These are annual numbers, and that's one thing I do have to caution everybody against. If you start looking at some of the other tools that are out there, these are annual aggregated numbers. These are not operational. So if you go look at a traffic counter, go out and do these and measure these in one spot moment, you're going to get a different answer. And that's okay, because we're trying to look at an aggregate across the year to be able to make planning decisions off of that. Let me see if I can. All right. Okay, I was able to see if that switches. Okay, so this is actually the compact tool itself. So that's what this is the HGAC area and all of the roadways that are covered inside of this. There's a lot. There's a lot of the roadway network is covered. And one of the things I wanted to bring this up is because to be able to actually show you. So if you want to actually go in and click that, anything with changing this map is on this other side. And so you can go in and start rebinning these and sort of doing a visual analysis without ever clicking on the map other than changing those numbers. Whatever you pick in these that you have in your table, you can also start to change what that visible representation is. So if I go in and click on one of these links, and I'm just clicking on a random one, I'm not picking one for any particular reason. So if I go in and click on one of these segments, it comes up with that from here. And then it lights up in pink all of the ones that you have options to continue your corridor on. If I click on another one, it's going to give me the to here option now, and I can click to there. And now internally, it is recalculated across that segmentation that you just created, all of your roadway network, all your roadway performance values. Then we have a table called My Roads. That's the ones that when you create your corridors, where now you have all of this data that's aggregated across the corridors. Now I have two other ones that I've had stored in here for a while. It keeps your local storage for a while. So if you don't hit refresh or reset, it's going to keep what you've done from the past for a while. So you get that ability of not having to recreate these quite as frequently. So that's kind of a broad, quick overview of, what actually, before I go on to that, this is all of the variables that we have currently, and it's kind of hard to see because I have a little bitty tiny screen. All of the variables that we currently have in this tool that are available. Anything starting from ADT values all the way down through congested cost, travel time index. All of these are available at any point to pick throughout the tool. So that's the compat tool that mostly will help with that goal number 3. What we have is another one that's very similar, and I shouldn't have stopped share. I should have just changed share, but that's all right. We have another one that's very similar. Let's see, there it is. Come on. So that compat tool we've developed working with the statewide planning branch of TxDOT. We have another one that we built working through the freight planning branch called the truck congestion analysis tool. Now the big difference between it and compat is this is statewide in coverage, where compat is centered on the MPOs. So if part of you is, if you end up with something that extends outside the MPO boundary, go use TCAT. Same metrics, same data, everything behind it's the same, except this is tilted squarely towards trucks. And there's a few features in it that are specific to the trucks that actually allows us to be able to analyze trucks a little bit differently. Not going to go through all this again. A lot of this, like I said, is exactly the same. We're using the same data sets for these tools, and we're actually in the process of getting where there's a more comprehensive framework around this so that you don't have to go to 2 different links, but that's kind of under development at the moment. The other difference that this one provides is this, and this is what's on the screen here. TCAT actually gives you access to the top 100 most congested roadway segments themselves. So where compat's all about the individual pieces, this actually has the top 100 in it. So if you go look at what TxDOT puts out as being the top 100 segments, you can find these in this as well for summarizing. So again, this tool is gonna help you more of in the truck realm. So where you're talking about the truck reliability. So goals in the question 4, and then because of the GHG emissions and the CO2 emissions that it has at a broader level, it's going to help also in that question 5, that goal number 5. So like I said before, this is actually the full coverage you get in TCAT now, because compat, where we segment it by the MPOs, every one of these segments on this screen right now are available in this tool. Skip through some of these. So the biggest thing with the key features in TCAT is it's lined out differently. These were built at different times, so they are going to have a slight bit of a different layout, but at the end of the day, they're still going to provide the same information and a lot of the same features that you can get access to building summaries, the custom corridors, the map context. A lot of this is actually operating identically the same. It's just a slightly different layout slanted towards trucks. So one thing that is different when it comes to the corridors, and you'll notice some of these screens are different. They're going to line up a little bit different when you start clicking, when you start using for the different purposes, and that's one of the things that we're working on, kind of trying to align at the moment. So there are various geographies in TCAT that you don't get in compat. So you can look at this by TxDOT district. So when you start to go try to do the visual, one of the big things that's important is to consider the context of the area. And when you start creating map shades, you start trying to highlight things in a visual analysis. It's all about what's around the area that you pick to do that. So if you want to look at it at a specific roadway in terms of what's happening within a TxDOT district, that geography is available in TCAT. If you want to do that versus what's happening in the MPO region, you can do that in here. If you want to look at it with respect to your individual county, you can look and see how that road segment is lining up, or your corridor is lining up against your individual county. So again, these are just a little bit talking about some of the variables that are available in TCAT that are going to be able to help some of these questions that you're going to have to fill out in this. Again, they're the same truck delay, travel time index, the planning time index. The congested cost is important in this because that's how much it's costing. The congestion is costing each and every year. That means a lot in terms of when you start talking about your regional and your economics. Because especially in a large area like this, that adds up. And that's something that you can pull out of these. And then of course we have it labeled as CO2. Now technically there is a difference between GHG and CO2, but reverting back to I spent 15 years in on-road mobile emissions inventory program at TTI and helping out with HJC and other MPO areas with their conformity analyses. So I'm always careful about this. CO2 is the major contributor to GHG. It's not the only contributor, but it's the major contributor. And that's what some of the listings we have in these, we'll label them as CO2. But you're going to be able to have access to what's the extra that's happening because of the congestion, and then what's happening in the normal conditions. Now, I think, okay, so we're doing questions later. I was going to pull up, let's see if I can pull up TCAT right quick. So it looks considerably different. As I said, these were built at different times, so the layout's a slight bit different, and because of the extra geographies we have in those, it's gonna line up just a tad bit different, but everything is skewed towards trucks for all of this. So this is actually here looking at the truck planning index. So this is a measure of the reliability of the network. And because you can go in and change these, if I can see what, you can go in and change on the map. Which one of these truck performance measures do I want to look at and start to dig in the map with? The visual is a big thing when you're trying to communicate this to people. I get more out of the visual than I do when I start diving in the numbers initially because it tells me where to start. It does, if there's nothing going on in a specific area, there's nothing to go do. It becomes more difficult to figure out what to do. That's not to say that that there isn't something on local roads that's not beneficial. You just may not see the contribution on some of the larger facilities. So there's a lot. I told Stephen I'd try to do my best to keep this at 30 minutes because there's a lot. I could spend 30, 45 minutes on each one of these individually, so do feel free to reach out to him and he can connect the dots and we can go through these a little bit more detail because there's a lot of information inside of these and what you can get out of them. With that, I think that's it.
Yep. Thank you, LD. We all appreciate you coming down from College Station to present here in Houston. We will now go on to RTP goal number 5. That would be Sungmin Lee from our data analytics team.
Oh.
Oh, no. Give us a second, please. It's all right. We got it.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sungmin Lee. I'm the manager of the data visualization of the Data Analytic and Research Department here in HCAC. I will presenting the ecological GIS tools and then demonstrate how to use it to measure impact of the proposal transportation projects on the environmental and then cultural resource in our region, and it will be help you your submit applications. Okay. First of all, what is the ecological GIS tool? The ecological GIS tools enable allow users to measure the impacts associated with the future transportation projects in their early stage of the planning process. It helps them preserving the critical ecological resource and that are necessary for their maintain their improving the quality of life in the region. Then I think it's what is ecological layer? So ecological layer is created by the Ecological Advisory Committee, which is including TxDOT, here is someone, and then Texas Park and Wildlife, and then Texas Forest Service, and then Houston Wilderness, and other organizations with HCAC. These layers categorize regional land into the two types. One is ecological land and then non-ecological land, based on the vegetations and then soil types and development patterns. As you see on the screen, ecological land is divided into the 7 categories from the upper forest to the tidal wetlands. And the non-ecological land is also divided into the 7 categories from the barren lands to the developed open space. And then what is lead flag tool? So lead flag tool is one of the key reporting tools on the ecological GIS tool. Similar to the NEPA, the National Environmental Policy Act study, it is designed to provide a quick overview of various factors within the designated area of interest. This report including the crucial information on the existing infrastructure, the mining site, and then hazard materials, and the water resource, and cultural resource, and as well as ecological resource. Okay, I briefly introduced the tools and its data. Now I would like to demonstrate how to use these tools, and then create a simple assessment and based on your own projects. So demonstration is live, so okay, close it. Okay, let's back to HS webpage. So Bishu, I think, is before presenting. So this tool is also part of our HCAC interactive web application. So I would like to introduce how to you go there again. So open the HCAC webpage, go down, bottom, there has a call section for the program and service. One of it is regional data imagery and research. There is an arrow button, you click it, you go down, there is interactive web application. When you click it, it's go to the interactive web application page. There is a total 11 category, and then there is a 67 application available. So please, anytime the visit is not only just for ecological tools. We have a lot of census-related, demographics, and then economy or transportation. I think it's also water quality-related report available. You can check with it. So in this case, let's click the environmental. Then there is a second row in middle. There is ecological tools available. When you click it, here is explanation of what is ecological GIS tools. And then click the launch application. You go to the ecological application. At the beginning of the application, you can see as a disclaimer. So when you click OK, then you will see there is this kind of menu. So I'm trying to hiding. Oh, yes, click the hide. Okay, so at the first, you can see this is called the app helper to kind of about describe it, what is application available. So this is a quick tour. Say, here is a tour option. So you click the next, go to the next menu, you can introduce it. This is a zoom button. You can in and out with the button. You can the mouse also, you can use the mouse. So next, here is a home button. You waiter, zoom in some area. You want to back to your original extent, you click this button. Here is the GPS button. This tool is also available your own mobile device. So you use a home phone, your smartphone, use this one, you click it, you can zoom in your current location. So here is the extend button. Again, you want to back to previous option, you can click here, you can go back to your previous option. This is, you can type your own address or your certain city, place name, then you can zoom in the specific location. Here is, you can also see as an entire regional level of the extent. They will also have a base map gallery. Right now, a base map is kind of a stream maps, but you also can using your aerial image, latest aerial image, with it, your project's location. Here's a measure tool. You can measure distance or area. Here's a print tool. So whenever I think a requirement or need to be provided some kind of a maps, a report, you can using this tool to print out the result. Then as is a kind of more kind of a core, we call the widget, but core function. Here's a legend. Legend is anything you're under currently show up the map. You can see the detailed information through the legend. Here is a layer list. You can actually toggles and you can turn on, turn off any layers within this map using this tool. Project location, this is one of, I think, important tool. You can create all kind of alignments, or you can create area, you can create a specific point, use this tool, and then you can actually save as your home computer or send to anybody kind of use this tool to kind of do their own projects location, or to help them to identify location. Adding data to this widget is help you to, if you have a shapefile, you can loading your own shapefile onto this tool. So use it not only shapefile, you have GeoJSON or KML, Google type file. You can use also everything here. So in the red flag report, I kind of mentioned previously, I will show you some how to use this tool. And then location analysis widget, this is a kind of based on your location, we also allow to summary and then generate report. This is ecological density contour tips. This is a kind of more specifically want to know detail about ecological layer. This tool help you. There is also quality tool available. This tool is a helping application. And then bookmark, you bookmark any location, you are do the back to later, you can check using this bookmark tool. Sweep tool is to help them compare with ecological tool with the other information. A link tool is help you all the documentation regarding of this application. Finally, selection tool, you also can export any data from here to the other format. It's kind of GeoJSON, meaning convert to allow to convert to spatial geodata. So you are here is, raster data cannot export, but feature layer, meaning is any vector data, you can export from this application. And also you can check the attribute table for individual information here. So showing is done. So when you see right now is our ecological layer. When you click legend, you can see the detail from the upland forest to the developed open space. Close it. You can zoom in the area more closely. You can see more detailed information through here. So legend often can see there has a lot of upland forest and then urban developed areas can see on the maps. You can, using the layer list, you can check the unchecked a layer. Right now, ecological cover layer is kind of open. You unchecked it, it's gone. And then you also can, using their certain current land use. This is based on our HES regional growth forecast. You also see the futures land use. And then you also can see the 2020 land cover, latest hours land cover information here. So these tools allow you to display all the different types of information. Okay, let's test it to our projects. So I mentioned before, we have a project locator here. This is a kind of a generate your own project's location. So there is available multiple option. I'm using this one, the polyline. So I'm choosing color here, and then I'm trying to draw there's some potential projects along the FM 723 from the Beardley Lane till let's do the Evans Road. Double click, yours have the projects gone here. So you are actually kind of, you select here, so you export, you can save it your own file here, and then you also loading from the other projects from other people's works in here. Okay, let's close it. Just let's click that segment what you created. So you can see this your project's location. You will see this kind of 3-dot button. There always meaning is more option. What is option available? Let's click the option, click more option. Here is multiple option available. One of is open red flag report. You click the open red flag report, then there's a red flag report widget is show up. So I think is Stephen mentioned is I think a quarter mile of the buffer to be your criteria. Let's type the quarter mile and then enter, then automatically generate the buffer based on your drawing. Then let's create a report. Then automatically they're gonna selecting all the layers within their red flag layer. So right now there is one education facility within that location. Let's click it. There is a Biscore Junior High School. So here is the location. You can check that. There is a 3 pipeline is within your buffer area. You click it, you will see where is the location to the pipeline information. Also, there is a 2 wells is a kind of within that your buffer area. You also can see the locations with that information. And then there has a 5 MPDS facility. This is EPA kind of registered facility information. So there is a 5 kind of site is facilities within that your buffer area. Here is information, and then there's you click the link, you can see the detailed facility information on their EPA website. So here is a lot of other information. Floodplain is also in the part of this one. You know, US wetland information, ecological land, layer in dangers of things. Layer in dangers is just based on your location of the county. So then you can download it, this information based on the CSV file. However, I would like to create a report. Let's click this print button. You can check, see the size you decided and generate it. Then all the summary information show up here. And then also you can see the detail of all the facility or location within that area. You can see in this report, part of a report. And then back to the first, you also can see the map of your project's location. Okay, when you close it, it's go away. So let's do another one. So when you click the layer again, you can see there's one more option. There is bottom, there is a set location. You click this one, and then there is another widget show up at the bottom. That is called the location analysis widget. Is this the same thing? Let's do the quarter mile buffer here. So this one is I have a multiple available information. First is announced development. Based on our regional growth forecast, we collecting kind of a latest or incoming of the development. Here is the location of the latest developments with the total kind of acre, how many kind of announced the housing units or the kind of non-square feet information. You can check this information through here. And then also, you can summarizing of the current land use based on your subject location. So this is the current land use of this area size based on that. Also, you can check the width of the percentage of land use, so you are understanding about your projects and then your kind of a characteristic of land use adjacent your projects. You can do the same thing for the future land use. This is based on our forecast information. Finally, the TAG level of the forecasting available. This is 2018 and the household population, and 2045 the household population. We can also household and then jobs to the current and futures. And then ecological wise, you can go down there. Here is, we can summarizing of their all ecological land area. So there is about around this, I think 1,020 acres is total land. And then ecological land is 494. There has, I think 217, the bottomland forest land is, and then there is a grassland 264. So you want to see as a percentage wise, you can also to see that here. So 48% of land is within this area has ecological land, and 21% is bottom forest, and then 26 is grassland. Here is the same thing. You can click here. You can download it data from here. You can download the entire all the data. Also, you can create a report. So here, FM 723. Okay. Then generate that summary information on the part of your report. So it show up at the map soon, but this is what they're kind of available. Actually, this project is a part of our existing RTP projects. So let's turn on our RTP, which is RTP here. It's a little take time, but show up. So meaning is you can using existing RTP layer as the same thing to the analysis. It's a little slow. It will be show up. And okay, it will show up soon, but I will share others information. So here is a link you can open. It has what is valuable information, what you needed. At first, you want more detail about our the ecological land cover data development. Click here. You can see all the detailed documentation available. And here is an ecological user guide. Has a kind of a description about the individual menu and then how to use it. There has available user guide. And then there is red flag tool detail, where is a kind of a red flag tools have layers meaning, and then there has a source, which is we are using. And then there has a, we also have a vulnerable population index. So that information is a part of our documentation. So here is, you can see, this is all the hours RTP current projects. So based on your same thing, you select it and go the more option button. You click it, open red flag tool, then you can do the analysis based on what exists in RTP projects layer. All right, that's all my presentation. And then,
okay, thank you, Sung-min. We have one more presentation. That was with Andrew Candace from HVAC, our manager, air quality manager from HVAC, and then we'll get into the question and answer session. So, Andrew.
I did just share. Hold on a second.
All right, good morning, everyone. I'm just going to give a very quick presentation just to talk about air quality and its place in the RTP and what you can do to begin to estimate the impact of any potential project on our regional air quality. So, so I guess the first question is, you have two options as far as your project submittal is concerned. You can sort of take the qualitative route and indicate that your project's contribution to reductions in regional, to why your project improves air quality. Does it reduce roadway volume? Does it reduce delay? And sort of take that route. Or another route that we're just starting to talk about this year is to take a quantitative route to try to understand what the actual initial benefit of any particular project has in the RTP. And this is something that we've always done as far as our TIP is concerned, but this is the first time we're offering it as an option for the RTP. So unfortunately at this time we don't have any internal tool to provide, although I'm hoping that we will be developing one over the next several years. But there are two potential tools that you can use to calculate the emissions of a project. There's the Mosers tool, which is from Texas A&M Transportation Institute. That's the Mobile Source Emission Reduction Strategies tool. Federal Highway Administration also has their CMAQ emissions calculator toolkit. Both of those are a set of tools that have been developed and that are freely available. We can provide you with the link for both of these sets of resources. And what these both are is they're both Excel tools. And they're used to calculate the air quality impact of various types of projects. And I'll talk a little bit more about these in the future. But the one thing I want to just reiterate is these are not HGAC developed tools. So we can't provide any direct support as to why something might or might not be working. But if you reach out to us, and I'll provide contact information at the end of this presentation, we're happy to help, we're happy to troubleshoot, we're happy to do what we can to provide information about these tools. So as I mentioned, there's two different tools that we're recommending potentially for this activity, the Mosers tool and the CMAQ tool. Both of these, and these are both pretty long lists of the type of projects that they support. And they're pretty typical projects as far as the work that's submitted for the RTP, HOV facilities, bicycle and pedestrian projects, traffic signalization, park and rides, telecommuting, and there's some variety between the two of them. I personally recommend the Mosers toolkit because that's more specific, that has more data that's specifically relevant to our region. However, I think both tools would provide a good first estimate of the emissions related to your project. So I'm not going to give a formal demo, but I would like to just kind of walk through how this Mosers tool works, just so you can get an impression of how it would look to sort of input a project and develop those emission reductions. So when you open this spreadsheet, you're given a choice, and I'm sorry, this is really hard to see, I'm sure, but you're given a choice of various different modules within the tool that you can access. Some of these, the ones in particular that are in gray, have not yet been implemented. There are methodologies, but they're not implemented in this spreadsheet as of yet. So what you would do is when you pick a module, in this case we're picking the freeway HOV facilities, apologies, you would be presented with a screen that indicates all of the information that's needed, as well on the top, as well as the outputs. So the one specific thing that I want to mention here is that on the very first line, there's an option to pick regions, because this is a statewide tool. So there's Houston-Galveston Area as part of this tool, Dallas-Fort Worth, Austin, San Antonio, El Paso. These are all have specific data that can be accessed. So the one thing I wanted to mention is that the first thing you should do is pick Houston-Galveston Area. And then here's a little bit of a closer look at some of these specific data that they're looking for. So as I mentioned before, we're looking at an HOV facility development. So you pick your region, you pick the analysis year, which is the year that you anticipate that that project will be put into operation. The road type, whether it's restricted or unrestricted, rural or urban. Geographic information about the project, the corridor length, peak times of day, what the separation looks like. In the case of this HOV facility, whether there's a hot conversion related to that, whether it's urban or rural. Looking at the general purpose lanes. How many lanes are there now? Will there be any additional lanes in the future? Looking at the HOV lanes. How many lanes are there now? Will there be any lanes in the future? And then there's also additional information that this requires of volume inputs, service hours, traffic capacity, and free flow speed. And that's the sort of information that you would need to talk to our internal data folks with our data analysis team. And to get access to that data, reach out to Stephen, and he can help you with that. He can help you get access to that. So once you put in all that information, you can push it's just a single button. You push it to calculate, and you get a whole bunch of outputs as far as travel time and lane speeds before and after, and a lot of different information. But in this case, as far as air quality is concerned, we're specifically looking for the very last line, which indicates the specific emission reductions related to that project. And what we're interested in our region, for reasons I'll talk about in just a second, is NOx and VOC. As well as we're looking for it in the units of kilograms per day. And kilograms per day, this matches our federal reporting standards. So when we ask anyone to submit that sort of information to support a project, we request it in kilograms per day so that all of our projects are being compared on an apples-to-apples basis. And I did want to note that any work that you do, these emissions are not final. You know, these projects are not final. We're very much in the planning stages. So, you know, we recognize as well as you that any project could change substantially throughout as that project continues to develop. But it does provide a useful baseline metric, and it provides a guidepost for planning over the life cycle of the project. And really, it's sort of that first quantitative method, so that as these projects evolve, as a project is updated, you can go back and you can take a look at how things have changed and whether it has improved its emissions benefit or not. It's a really good guidepost. So I mentioned before, we're specifically looking for nitrogen oxides and volatile organic compounds, NOx and VOC. And so these are both byproducts of combustion processes, and they're also both ozone precursors. Ozone is not formed naturally in the atmosphere, in the lower atmosphere, but is the result of the combination of both of those pollutants. So as we're trying to reduce ozone concentrations and meet any ozone standards for our region, we are very much focused on making sure that we understand the emissions for both NOx and VOCs and try to reduce those. Let's see, and one more thing that I wanted to mention, I'm just going to back up. Notice that the emission reductions here are pretty low for this demonstration project. Less than about half a kilogram per day of NOx, and a little more for VOCs. I just wanted to indicate that that's pretty typical for roadway projects. Emission reductions can be, I would say a reasonable range is between 0 and 2 kilograms per day for most roadway projects, but emission reductions of less than 1 kilogram per day are quite common. And just wrapping up here, but before I wrap up, I did want to mention one note that your mileage may vary, but we've had some issues as we've downloaded these tools with Windows not wanting to open them due to security constraints. So I just wanted to note that if you have that issue as well, because not everybody, I imagine, will have that issue, you can right-click on the file icon and go to Properties and go all the way down to the bottom of that Properties screen to Security and click Unblock, and that will allow you to view and edit the document without any issues. So if you're interested in pursuing this route and you'd like some assistance or some guidance, please feel free to reach out to myself or Vinny Polignano, who's our data specialist here at HGAC and working on my team. And if you're interested in reaching out for that data, the volume and speed data, reach out to Stephen Keen, and he'll be happy to provide you with that information. And thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. So with that, that is the end of our presentations for our data applications for the RTP project development process. The recordings, the slide decks, and the relevant links will all be available at HGAC's website. We'll also be sending everybody that registered for this event an email to the webpage, as well as the slide decks and all of our other pertinent documents. Now, right now, we're going to open up the Q&A for really the second half of the project sponsor workshop. But before we do that, just a little bit of reminders. This process opens May 22nd at 9 a.m. It will close July 22nd at 5 p.m., so roughly 60 days. And we will be in contact with y'all before the webpage opens. We are also all available when it opens for the duration of those 60 days, and once the portal closes, for any questions or comments regarding project status, things of that nature. So right now, I'd like to open up the question and answer session. We do have our presenters still in person, so if you have questions regarding the actual data applications, we'll probably send those questions to them and they can answer on the microphone. If there are any more RTP process-related questions, I'll be able to answer them. So yeah, if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to attempt to answer. Yeah.
Well, that's convenient. Thank you very much. Excellent presentation. I wanted to ask Mr. DeCandis if, regarding the air quality tracking, if that is reported out in just total pounds or kilograms or kilotons of pollution, or is it proportional to the square miles of the state, wherever you are? Is it per square mile? Is it per capita? What's the denominator, or is it just a raw number?
Well, it's kilograms per day. So basically, the amount of emissions resulting in the application of that project that are occurring every day. So it's like, let's say you had a corridor that you were making an improvement to, that was a 5-mile corridor. Previously, previously its speed was, let's say, 20, now it's 25. As a result of that change in speed, there will be improved emissions. So that's based on the number of cars that are running through that corridor, the amount of traffic that's going through that corridor over the course of any given day. So I think the answer is it depends on what sort of project you're talking about. That if you're looking at a corridor, it could be, it's the amount of vehicles going through that corridor each day. If you're looking at, let's say, a bicycle and pedestrian project, it's the amount of emissions that are saved by that mode shift from vehicle to bicycle and pedestrian. So I think if you're asking for sort of what that route looks like, I think it depends on what type of project it is. But it is, when it comes down to it, it's the emissions reduced on a daily basis by that project. Does that help?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Andrew. Are there any other questions? Are there questions online, Daniel?
There are no questions so far.
Okay. Yeah.
I saw the compact, hopefully I'm projecting. There you go. It's a little better. Yeah. So I saw that both tools use the Rhino road profile. That's a little different than HGAC Star Map, which is a little different than OpenStreetMap. So you're well aware that everybody has their road line. I know that you have the tool available for free, but for agencies that would like to run their own model, and I see that you do have the networked version to where you have U-turns and you have on-ramps, off-ramps, and there's some kind of level of Z value to them, especially in overpasses and the such. Is that available to share with agencies? Because a lot of the process is getting that prepared. So if you've done it, we would be interested in having that.
Yeah, I would honestly, I would have to visit with the folks who actually run the values. I build the tool. Dave Schrank and some other guys, they run that stuff. They've got code that they go back through and run that from off that. We'd have to see how that would work with being able to share how those.
Yeah,
there's a methodology document I know that lists that's on the Texas 100 most congested roadways website. You can Google that and find that really quickly. That's easy to find, and it does have a generic methodology in that. As for the actual code, honestly, right now I think they even run that in SAS. So we're trying to get it out of something into something else as we speak. So actually being able to share that where you can run it on a different network is a bit challenging.
Okay, well, thank you for clarifying.
Thank you, LD. Are there any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question for Andrew about emission benefit calculation. So if we want to propose a management lane or HOV lane, and currently we don't have it. For example, State Highway 225, we don't have HOV lanes, and we propose to add a 4-lane HOV lane. And then we calculate the HOV benefit. That how do we claim or calculate the emission reduction benefit? Because we currently do not have the emission from HOV. And then we have HOV for the future we propose. Yeah, so we have emissions out of the HOV, but we have a huge benefit from the reduction on the main lane. So we calculate the emission increased on HOV lane and then reduction on main lane. So how do we calculate the benefit overall?
I think this would be one of those cases where you should just reach out to me, and we can sit down and have a conversation about it, because it's not always a direct 1-to-1 ratio like in the case that you're talking about.
Okay.
So I think
this is complicated.
Right, because probably in your case you would talk about decreases in congestion via other.
Main lane.
Yeah. Reach out to us and let's have a conversation about it.
Okay.
Are there any other questions? Daniel, are there any in the chat?
There are no questions online.
Okay, thank you, Jacob. Well, if there are no questions that would like to be posed now, again, staff is available for any questions outside of the project sponsor workshop before the online portal goes live, when the portal is live, and once the portal closes. So again, we're all available. These slides will be available to you all and to the public shortly, but on behalf of HAC staff, we thank you all for joining virtually and of course in person. And we look forward to working with you all soon again. Thank you, everybody.